go ahead and get the kit out here. This one's pretty simple to build. It's kind of very straightforward, and get this bag out of the way. There is the top receiver part, and this is one of those that's like the artists and stuff, they don't really draw a gun that has seams in the ability for the slide to kick back. And of course, if you put a bullet in, you've got to get a bullet out. So I added an ejection window up top here. It's got the normal Picatinny rail on the bottom, which is going to be for the laser pointer. Michael with Fanfiction Props is actually making the Rebirth inspired holster set that has the hard holsters and leather mixture for these specific guns, so they drop in and set perfectly in them. I'll put a link in the description of the video to his holster. At the time I release this video, he won't have it up, but I will add it shortly after he gets it there. So we've got 2 magnets. Let me go ahead and get this action here. There is the receiver section, the slide section, the grip that goes on there, the mag. The mag does have magnets in it, top and bottom of the receiver, so you can remove it. This is the laser. The laser is one of those things that you can choose to put on or leave off. And if you put it on, you'll just slide it on and glue it into place. We have our barrel section, which, excuse me, is separate so that you can paint it a slightly different color, along with what would be the slide pin, even though that there's not a full body slide. That will also be separate. And we have our trigger, and we have our little hammer. We have our orange tip, which goes on perfectly. And so let's get our 2 magnets out. We've got a few screws here. We've got 4 screws that's going to be for holding the grip to the body. We have a spring, and we have a set screw. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So let's see. I've got my CA glue. Everybody always asks what type of glue to use. You can use regular thick super glue. I like, and when I say regular thick super glue, like a name brand like Loctite or whatever, because those smoke less. You'll have an issue with really cheap super glue that whenever it cures, it flashes and smokes, and it will leave ghosts on your parts where the smoke went across. I use a CA glue. It's basically, in a nutshell, a 2-part super glue. You have your thick super glue, and then you have an activator that you spray on it, and it instantly cures it. What we can do is we can go ahead and put the barrel and the slide pin in. And this is pretty straightforward. As far as this goes, all I'm going to do is put some glue on the very back end of the barrel and take my activator, and I'm going to just squirt down the hole so I don't have to sit here and wait forever for it to dry. Go ahead and put it in there, let it set, and it's cured. Now on the slide pin, let me get it up here so you can see. There's a flat side, and then there's a side that's slightly beveled. The slightly beveled side is the side that goes out. And that's, again, to more mimic the way that a slide pin actually looks. So I'm going to flip it upside down, put some activator on it, slide it in. And now I get asked all the time, what paints and how do I recommend, painting and sanding and all that stuff. you know, these are very, very smooth. But for the most part, I myself, back whenever I actually had time to actually finish and build models, everything I have is still silver. I've got stacks of silver props and wall full of silver props, and um, yeah, I don't get to finish much stuff. But you know, just a light coat of a filler primer, let it dry, go back with like some 500 grit real quick and knock it down. And what'll happen is when you knock it down, you'll start seeing the ridges of the print lines. Do one more light coat again, and then just go over it. And basically, all the filler primer doing is these little microscopic lines in between each print layer. It fills those in, and when you sand off and even the valley full of filler primer to the top edge of each print line. So then you ended up filling it out. But even like this right here, I probably, just depending on the part, and there's deviations in 3D printing, but on this slide, I probably wouldn't even prime it. I would go straight into spray a base coat and let it almost cure, then spray another base coat, light, and remember, do light coats because you can always add more. It's a bitch to take off. So just remember that. Light coats are totally fine. You don't have to get a solid, even coat, because when you do, you're going to end up dealing with runs and it's too damn thick. So, but this slide, I probably wouldn't even prime, because by the time you do 2 or 3 really light base coats, and then go on and do some secondary coloring or weathering, and then you clear coat it, it's going to be such a smooth surface anyways. It's not that big of a deal. So I went ahead and we got the barrel in, the slide pin in. We'll go ahead and before we assemble too far, we're going to go ahead and put the magnets into the magazine and into the receiver. And I like to cover this very specifically because this is what helps me to keep from screwing this up. And those of you that have bought kits from me and had to contact me for new parts and magnets, I'm there with you. I've done it 100 times, and this is the way that I found not to screw this up. Because in situations where you want magnets to attract, you have to have them the right orientation. So I'll leave the magnets stuck together, and I'll take a Sharpie, and I will color both sides and a little bit of my finger there. And I will let that dry. Now, depending on where I'm putting the magnet, I may separate these and glue them in, but I always just, in my brain, since I use the black Sharpie, or if you use a red Sharpie or whatever color, like this, to me, my brain is saying black to the back right there. Okay, so whatever color it is, just associate in your brain to go to the back side. And if you do that, if that goes to the back side and then this one goes to the back side, when you go to put them together, they attract. And that's where most people screw up, is they're like, all right, I get this, I lay the magnet over there, glue it in, and go put it together, and it's pushing it away. And a mag that gets pushed out of the gun without you wanting it pushed out of the gun is no good. So so if you notice that the magnets, just they drop in, no issue. So what I'm going to do on this one, I'm not even going to separate them, because I'm just going to put just a little drop. And don't put a gob in there, because you got to remember the glue has to have somewhere to go. And what's going to happen is you put too much in there, it's going to squish out everywhere, and it's just going to be and then once you put that in there, I just slide it off to the side. And now that magnet is in. It's set, it's good to go. Now on this, remember where I use black Sharpie, so black to the back, and it'll go in just like that. So again, we just a little drop, and I'm going to spray this in my hand. Black to the back side. There you go. And now I'm going to make sure that fully cures before I try to test it, because since you're gluing to the ferrous metal of the magnet into the plastic of the body, you want to make sure it's fully cured, because it's a lot of pulling power. You may not think it is. Sliding them off sideways, they slide very easy, but when you come straight directly off between two magnets, these are a lot of pulling power. So let them make sure that they're fully cured before you start putting it in there and playing with it and testing it and stuff. While we're at it, we'll go ahead and go back to the slide real quick, and go ahead and put that little hammer in there. And all I'm going to do is just a little dab there. People ask me all the time, do you paint and then assemble, or do you assemble and paint? For the most part, I pre-assemble stuff so I can see where I do and don't need to paint, because that actually also gives you help. Like on this, I wouldn't paint the inside of this, so that means that I've got a good place to hold on to this now. Like whether it's my fingers or I find something to attach in here, now I can paint, get completely done with it, and remove it, and it's good to go. Because there's no sense in painting in here. You're not going to see any of it. You'll see the bottom edge of this, because once this is in there, that's how it looks. But you're not going to see that. And same with this. You put that together and you're like, oh, okay, cool. So none of this is shown. So now I have some place to hold on to this. So you can hold on to this. You can put a clamp on it. You can cram something in this, so you've got something to spray around. So yeah, I always pre-assemble, and then I take apart and I try to paint the majority of stuff separately. Like this hammer would have been separate, the barrel, the slide pin, all of this would have been separate. Then I would have glued it together. One, it gives you better lines. It gives you better definition. I always try to do cutbacks between where two parts glue together, so that even when the parts are together, the cutbacks are deep. So it just gives that depth. So let's see. So now basically the only thing left is the hammer and the trigger. So on this one, it's a little bit different. Normally we put the spring in, and then the trigger and all that stuff. Before I put the trigger in, I'm going to show you if the springs will just pop in. If they don't pop in, if they're a little tight, rotate it counterclockwise, not clockwise, counterclockwise, as you're putting them in, and it will pop right in and it'll stay. So that's just a note, because the thing is when we do what we're going to do here, which we're going to take the trigger, we need this set screw. It's not a screw missing the head. It's literally a set screw, and it has a hole in it for an Allen wrench. And normally any little Allen set that you go buy, Harbor Freight, Walmart, that's got the little folding Allens, buy a metric set, because these are metric. And I'm actually not even using an Allen bit. I'm using a Torx bit, just because I lost the Allen. I've lost that Allen out of all like 10 sets of these bits I have laying around, which, you know, this is a Harbor Freight set, this right here. And I've got like, I don't know, 6 to 10 sets of these all over my shop and my office and stuff. They're really good sets. I've never broke a bit. I lose them. I don't break them. Maybe I just haven't had them long enough to break them. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's why I think they're such good bits. I just lose them before I get to break them. No, I've never broke one. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever stripped one. Now I've stripped these Torx bits using them for the wrong size of things, but basically what I do is I just put that in there, look both directions, top, bottom, make sure that you're 90 degree to your body. I will screw this in to right before, get up here so you can see. I'll screw it in right as I start to go through the body. Then just grab your trigger. It's one of these things that you know, just grab it, hold it however you need to kind of keep the hole there. And as you go in, like I didn't hit the hole, so I'm pushing it to the body, so I'll back out a little bit, move it around, and there we go. So we're going to screw this in, and look at this other side over here. We're going to screw, screw, screw. Now it's even. We're not even here, so we're just going to back out just a little bit, and we're backed out a little bit on that side, so we're good to go. So now we just take our spring, do it counterclockwise to get it to lock in. And if you notice, there's a matching hole in the slide here. So what we're going to do when we get ready to glue this, we're just going to make sure that that goes in where it's supposed to. And before we glue it, we can test the spring, make sure it's where it needs to be. And even now, when I go to let go of it, it forced it into the hole there. So now at this point, you want to glue to this surface here. And if you want to put a little glue around the side, you can, of course, because the more surfaces glued together, the better your bonding. I would just try to stay away from too close to where the spring goes in, because you don't really want to adhere your moving parts and stuff. So okay, there you go, and we're in. It's seated, holding. Probably just going to. And if any of y'all wonder, that goes to use CA glue. I can't speak for all CA glue, but every CA glue I have used, whether it's Bob Smith or this brand, which I really, really like this brand, and it's cheap, and I've used many, 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 many bottles and cans of it, but I don't have any interaction between the activator and like painting over it. I've not had any adverse reaction from the spray paint to that. From like where I just sprayed that, it all evaporates anyways. So, and any residue, if there is any, I've never had any to interfere. So there's our trigger. So our next step is we can put that on, but right now, if you want to, we can stick that in there. And now it's magnetized, and we pull that out. And there's a lot of slack in here. Some of y'all be like, man, that's a lot of slack. I did that so by the time you painted up your mag and got it all slicked out and put some clear coat and stuff on it, you still have plenty of room, so it's not, digging into your paint job every time you slide in and out. So now what we're going to want to do is just slide this bad boy on. Let's find the right dadgummit. Here it is. I believe it. Okay. So on this, there's just the 4 holes and 4 screws, and you know what you do with holes and screws, you screw them. So let's get these in here. Now on this blah, 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 particular one that I'm assembling here, it doesn't have the logo on the barrel. There'll be an option for with and without the logo on the barrel. Most references in Rebirth that I've seen, there isn't a logo, but myself personally, I like the way the logo looks. The painted pictures on the listing, you'll see that Michael at Fanfiction painted up. They will there'll be a logo and logo-less, one with a logo and one without a logo version, so you can see what they look like. So there you go. Change mags. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our flashlight on. So on this, I always tell people to put glue in the hole and then slide your piece in. That way it wipes the glue down into the hole. Basically, I'm going to do the same thing and tell you the opposite. Tell you the same thing and tell you the opposite. Boy, that made 0 sense. Normally, if I was to put glue in here and go like this, I'm going to wipe glue all the way down. So what I'm going to do is see where this goes. I'm going to back up, and I'm going to put glue on both sides there and then push it into the glue. And don't do too much glue. I mean, do it as far up as you can. That way, by the time it smears back here, you're not pushing globs into your slide there. So I'm going to take and put, well, if I did not, there we go. About to say, I may have just let my glue. That's another thing good about this CA glue is it doesn't dry up too bad because of the activator. So I'm going to hold that. Whoop. I did the Dumb and Dumber mouth spray thing. Went to spray it and it shot off the other direction. Let that dry, cure, whatever you want to call it. That back on. Put our lids back on. Put our tools off to the side. So there it is. There is the Rebirth inspired gun. I think it's pretty freaking dang awesome. Got your, you know, a little laser and stuff, and your orange tip, don't forget to put that on. You must have that on there. You know what I mean? So, but there you go, guys. That is the assembly for the Rebirth inspired gun. I appreciate it.